Ardent or hardcore Bruce Lee fans, we have another book for you, found in the public domain, public access, so there shouldn't be any copyright problems there. This book is called Bruce Lee, The Fist That Shook the World, The Cinema of Bruce Lee. A fairly old book. Bruce Lee in pose on the set of Enter the Dragon, and this is by Lou Gall, this particular book, and dedicates it to his mother, father, his wife. Table of contents. Forward. Why a book about Bruce Lee? Why now? Those are fair questions, especially from people who have steadfastly considered their so-called chop-socky pictures nothing more than a way for exhibitors to attract action-starved, not to mention popcorn-hungry patrons to their theatres. Defending the martial arts genre neither interests nor excites me, says the author. Bruce Lee, however, does excite me. Something he has done ever since I first saw him in the early 1970s. Yeah, we can relate to that. I think we saw him probably after his death, probably near the 80s, through a friend, right? We went to a friend's house, he had a poster of Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, caught our attention, and then later on in life we actually went to a cinema that was running kung fu movies from say 6 o'clock in the evening to 6 in the morning, and he grabbed our attention ever since. Watching audiences respond to him with unrestrained cheers during the battles and respectful silence during the build-ups transformed the viewing experience into something ranging from a rousing sporting event to an uplifting religious revival meeting. Quite simple, there has never been anyone like him on screen, ever or ever since. In a world of copies or clones, Bruce Lee remains a striking original. Certainly filmdom has had its traditional action heroes, from straight-shooting John Wayne to wisecracking Bruce Willis, but no such actor ever brought his personal history to his art and displayed it in such a totally raw, emotionally intriguing, completely unforgettable manner. Lee willingly did what few screen artists ever do. He exposed his personal demons, focused on them, and produced a blazing show of strength, power that he seemed to rip from within the darkest depths of his psyche. The hateful prejudice he faced, the hard-won respect he fought to achieve, the closed white world he sought to conquer, and the intense passion he possessed for the martial arts all surface in his four major films: Fist of Fury, The Chinese Connection, Return of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. For the sake of clarity, all of Bruce Lee's films will be referred to by the American distribution titles in this text. Those who feel these pictures are merely simplistic revenge tales that glisten only due to Lee's magnificent physical artistry should scratch the surface. Look deeper and study the images. The author hopes this book will help people do exactly that. Although not pretending to touch on every element in Lee's body of work, the author had toiled to identify the major themes, symbols and motivations in his maneuver. He did it with the deepest respect for Bruce Lee, his family, and the legacy he left behind. However, the author's intention was never to be an advocate trying to transform doubters of Lee's cinematic power into true believers. Shame on those who don't already appreciate his incredible and indelible impact on entertainment. Lee displayed the majesty of the martial arts to people everywhere, and to put it mildly, the world has never been the same. When we see a child play a video game, be it Mortal Kombat or any similar title, when we see Mel Gibson using an Asian fighting style in the Lethal Weapon series, when we see a self-defense academy in every American town, when we see the blazing action in a John Woo or Ringo Lam film, or when we see Chuck Norris karate-kicking villains on the CBS hit Walker, Texas Ranger, it all goes directly back to Bruce Lee, who sadly never lived to see his international impact. And returning to those who deride his body of cinematic work, the author suggests enjoying the sense of excitement, adventure and discovery Bruce Lee still provides almost a quarter of a century after his death. Like James Dean, the symbol of a rebellious youth, and Marilyn Monroe, the symbol of sexual possibilities, Bruce Lee, the symbol of the common man's fighting spirit in an oppressive world, has become a screen icon for the present and future generations. His passion radiates off the screen. Before starting to read, you may want some idea of how Lee's 4 films rank in terms of quality and impact. Here's how the author lists them. Number 1, Return of the Dragon. Lee staged the fights in all of his films, but this is his only official directorial effort. As such, it provides more insights into the action filmmaker than any of his other works. We see his broad brand of humour, his intense love of working people, and perhaps most importantly his inspired sense of style in staging fight sequences. Most notable, of course, is his hard-hitting choreography for the climactic battle between him and Chuck Norris. Lee intended the one-on-one fight to be the best hand-to-hand scene ever captured on celluloid. He succeeded. You all know that film worldwide as The Way of the Dragon. Number 2, Enter the Dragon. Sure, John Saxon gets too much screen time and the main villain is lifted directly out of a James Bond adventure, but Lee was at the peak of his physical powers and strained to do the best job possible. He knew the stakes were high. Lee had long waited to break into the American market and viewed Enter the Dragon as the perfect opportunity. His screen character may be cold, but the passion Lee brings to the fight sequences, particularly the intense underground fortress battle involving 50 opponents, melts that frosty exterior. Number 3, The Chinese Connection, or you may know it as The Fists of Fury. For his second starring role, Lee was willing to expose his emotional side, something he would never do again on screen. How many action superstars would be willing to cry and leap on top of the casket of a loved one? Although taking a great risk by going to such lengths with the emotional level, Lee pulls it off and in the process infuses the picture with a heartfelt undercurrent. Lee also punctuates it with some terrific combat scenes, though the final battle with the evil Japanese school owner lacks raw power, but like his climatic battle with Han and Enter the Dragon, seems slightly disappointing compared to the earlier fight scenes. Number 4, Fists of Fury, or the Big Boss. Though a noble first effort, the film takes far too long, almost 45 minutes, before allowing Lee to snap into action. Once the fighting starts, however, Fists of Fury assumes a nasty, almost horror film-like edge in terms of the gore level, and it's the only Lee picture where the best battles occur at night, with the moonlight suggesting the dark side of the character that surfaces when he begins mortal combat. One can't help admiring the rawness of this work, which still possesses a violent shock value and provides a frightening jolt. Stefan Hammond and Mike Wilkins note in Sex and Zen and A Bullet in the Head, The Essential Guide to Hong Kong Mind-Bending Films, 1996, that what Elvis Presley was to rock and roll, Bruce Lee was to celluloid kung fu. Years before George Lucas introduced the Force to audiences, Bruce Lee displayed the fist. It was one that truly shook the world. Introduction. To express yourself in freedom, you must die to everything of yesterday. From the old, you derive security. From the new, you gain the flow. Bruce Lee. And there's information on Bruce Lee. And it says here, Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan and Jean-Claude Van Damme, as well as other obviously less talented martial arts performers, are all pretenders to the throne. There remains only one king of cinematic kung fu, Bruce Lee. He still holds that position more than 2 decades after his passing. And it's got more information on Bruce Lee there. What he had to put up with. At the time of Lee's death, Italian producer Carlo Ponti was preparing a film deal that would have made the Chinese-American martial artist the highest paid actor in the world. Even without the Ponti deal, Lee, whom the Village Voice dubbed the Burt Reynolds of the Orient at the time, a fitting title since Lee, like Reynolds, could easily alter from a macho presence to a comedic characterization, was the first Chinese-American to achieve superstar status. Through his body of work, Fists of Fury, The Chinese Connection, Return of the Dragon and Enter the Dragon, Lee forever changed the image of the martial arts and of the Chinese in the minds of Americans, but he went far beyond this limited goal. He became a potent image of the hero, even in the minds of some, a demigod with near supernatural powers, an image of self-perfection through self-discipline, a fearless rebel against a corrupt social order. Bruce was more than just a single success story, said Sterling Siliphant. He represents a whole race finally accepted in films. Lee's screen persona is also exploited in director Robert Milligan's Blood Brothers, 1978, when Richard Gere, takes his younger brother to see Enter the Dragon as a special treat and a means of escaping a bleak blue-collar existence. 30 seconds of the cabin scene are shown, and the action clearly touches the boy, taking him to a fantasy world in which a smaller man conquers incredible odds through a daring combination of martial arts and expertise and animal ferocity. Lee's savage fighting, with its elements of deadly danger and seething passion, certainly stirred a viewer's blood. His physical force went beyond a mere screen image and touched his fans in a way very few performers ever have or ever will. An incredible sordid assortment of rip-off films attempted to squeeze profits out of Lee's screen appeal after the actor's untimely death. Pictures with titles such as Bruce Lee, His Last Game of Death, Bruce Lee and I, and The Way of the Dragon, the story of Bruce Lee, flooded theatres, and at one time plans were announced for Ilsa meets Bruce Lee in The Devil's Triangle. Fortunately, it never went for the cameras. Ilsa, played by Diane Thorne, previously appears in Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, 1974, Ilsa, Harem Keeper of the Oil Sheiks, 1976, and Man Eaters, 1978. All directed by Don Edmonds. The busty character's specialty was wearing Nazi uniforms and torturing naked men and women. Thorne also starred in Wanda the Wicked Warden, 1979, directed by Jess Franco. She played an Ilsa-like character named Greta the Torturer. Such exploitative cinematic fare simply tarnished the name of Bruce Lee, who devoted his life to learning, developing, teaching and expanding his art. We're piggybacking on the Bruce Lee fame. From the old masters of Kung Fu, the Cantonese spelling, which Lee always preferred to the westernized Kung Fu, the martial artist learned the basic principles of the art of self-defense and then added his own style, naming it Jeet Kune Do. Armed with an incredible physical prowess, he arrived on screen ready to do battle with the massive social forces that held him and millions of Chinese in bondage, and so forth. Self-defense experts John Corcoran and Emil Farkas have credited Lee with having more impact on the fighting arts than all the other martial artists in the world put together. Praise for his legendary physical abilities is endless, with James Coburn, his second celebrity student after Steve McQueen, declaring that Lee was the most perfect physical specimen he'd ever seen, and Nijinsky of the martial arts. I guess that might be one of those Russian dancers, right? Ballet dancers or something like that. Lee's wife Linda, who often worked as his partner when he developed new fighting techniques, termed him the Galileo of the martial arts. According to screenwriter Joe Hyams, who wrote about his dealings with Lee and Zen in the martial arts, the Chinese-American man was a legend in the martial arts before stepping before a camera. Even folk singer Phil Ox, a man more prone to soft bellows than hard punches, became a Lee devotee after experiencing the power of his performance with the Philippines audience in September 1972. Ox called Lee's physique the science of the body taken to its highest form, and violence in his films, no matter how outrageous, is always strangely purifying. In a 1982 issue of the martial arts fanzine, The Jade Screen, Alex Bean Block attributed some of Lee's rise to being in the right place at the right time. Block told interviewer Gary Kahatsu, "I think where timing came into play in terms of Lee's success was that America made a move toward China at the same time. It was the end of the Vietnam War, and there was great feeling that we didn't understand the Orient, and now it was time to begin learning about it. There was an openness on the part of Americans of all nationalities, races, whatever, to begin to see what there was to learn about these people in the Orient. We just got the hell kicked out of us by the North Vietnamese, and President Richard Nixon had gone into China, and we saw a civilization that was working for them. And I think Bruce Lee came along at the right time in that way. As for the movie thing, I think he was responsible. He had crossover appeal, meaning he was an Oriental, but he could play to American audiences, to many different races, and be successful. A lot of other movies made were either so badly made or so stupid that people couldn't identify, and that's why after Bruce Lee, the martial arts genre never succeeded anywhere near the dimensions people expected. When Bruce Lee lit the fuse, everybody was waiting for the explosion, creating a new genre which would stay with us for years, and that never really happened. Lee saw movies as a combination of commercial creativity and creative commerce, and recognised that Kung Fu films represented a limited genre with only one asset, Kung Fu, going for them and everything else against them. He adhered to the genre's one aesthetic principle: if the Kung Fu is lousy, or if there's not enough of it, the movie The movie fails, and then bravely battled to expand it. First with Fists of Fury and the Chinese Connection, he attempted to be involved with improving the writing and staging the action. With Return of the Dragon, he shattered the Hong Kong film studio tradition of only using contract players and wrote, directed, co-produced and starred in the project. All three films contain simplistic plots, but elements of racial and sexual stereotyping lurk beneath the surface, giving them, as well as Enter the Dragon, a subtext that deserves study. The following book will pinpoint many of the elements of prejudice throughout Lee's career: the use of prejudice as a theme in his films, sexual elements in the pictures, critical overviews and scene readings. For clarification, the text is divided into a number of sections, with the cumulative effect of presenting a picture of a gifted, driven genius who share audacity, unyielding principles, and stern stubbornness made him not only a martial artist, but in the grand sense a cinematic artist as well. Lee once said, "To generate great power, you must first totally relax and gather your strength, and then concentrate your mind and all your strength on hitting your target." His target, at first a seemingly impossible one, was worldwide motion picture stardom. His rise to it remains the stuff of which legends are made. Chapter 1, Birth of the Dragon. That's the usual history about Bruce Lee, when he was born, where he was born, etc., etc. That you see in most of these biographical books. Okay, we're back to America, where he was born. When I went back to the States, I said, "Here I am, a Chinese, not prejudiced or anything, just realistic thinking. How many times in Hollywood films is a Chinese required? And when it is required, it is always branded as typical tongue, with the little pigtail in the back. You know, the type." So I said, the hell with it. Lee's analysis of the prejudiced view of the Chinese was extremely astute. The cliché of the yellow menace had prowled through Western cinema from silent days. Some German-made films, Robert Reinhardt's Opium and Fritz Lang's Der Springen, contained a distinct anti-Chinese sentiment at a time suspiciously close to when that country lost its Chinese concessions, and so forth. The anti-Chinese image continued through Warner Oland's 1929 Fu Manchu and the Mysterious Dr. Fu Manchu, to British actor Christopher Lee's sanguine interpretation of the shady manipulator of men in 1966 Brides of Fu Manchu. Anticipating such prejudice, Lee dashed any thought of a film career. Instead, he considered teaching the martial arts. He briefly worked as a dance instructor in San Francisco before leaving for a job as a busboy waiter at Ruby Chow's, a Chinese restaurant in Seattle, Washington, where he resided. Lee, who was unhappy about going from being a member of a prosperous Hong Kong family to working at a restaurant, continued as a waiter while earning a diploma at Edison Vocational High School, and then enrolled as a philosophy student at Washington University. There he met a young American medical student, Linda Emery, of Swedish origin. The woman, whose father died when she was 4, felt attracted to Lee's authoritative manner. They were introduced through Linda's Chinese girlfriend, who studied the martial arts with Lee. The couple married in 1964 and had 2 children, Brandon and Shannon. While at Washington University, Lee was a member of the Armed Forces Reserve, but was classified 4F in 1963 for an undescended testicle. Yeah, I remember seeing him in a military-style uniform. So, is that part of a movie, or did he actually join some sort of military faction or group, or some sort of cadet program? Yeah, and there's more on Bruce Lee here. While giving a demonstration to promote his skills at the 1964 International Karate Championships in Long Beach, California, Lee was spotted by hairstylist Jay Sebring, who was killed by the Charles Manson family in the infamous Sharon Tate slayings. A few months from that night, Sebring, who became a Lee student, would mention the Chinese American's name to producer William Dozier, who was then preparing a show entitled Number One Son, based on Charlie Chan's Offspring. It would mark the start of Lee's cinematic career as an adult and the beginning of the fierce prejudice he would face and endure while he remained in Hollywood. And you got that part for Kato and Green Hornet. right, etc. etc. Went from there. Yeah, imagine because Bruce Lee had done a film with Sharon Tate, some other woman, right? He was like a martial arts instructor or whatever. Imagine if he had been there at the place those women went to and killed Sharon Tate in Sebring. Geez, he would have kicked some ass, wouldn't he? Pretty sure he would have. Probably would have saved their lives. But I don't know about this Sharon Tate and this Roman Polanski relationship. I don't know, because I don't know. I have to do more personal research, etc. Look, he was the kind of guy. So, if he was director, he may have tendencies for younger, underage women. Don't know that. Okay. She was on Beverly Hills Hillbillies as a secretary for a while there before she was murdered. Yeah, I'm not too sure on that. Again, you have to look at the personal, do some personal research on Roman Polanski, etc., etc., to see if he, as we believe through the news, he's a bit of a dodgy guy. Maybe, don't know, maybe she was pregnant and it could have ruined his career. Just don't know. Again, we have to do personal research on that to verify that. So he had us, knocked off. I don't know. We don't know. We don't want to make these accusations because we could be completely wrong. It's just something that came across our minds a while back. We were pondering. Anyway, we're moving on. But yeah, he probably would have kicked us and saved those people's lives if he was there. Okay, Son of the Dragon, Kato the Green Hornet. The fight for the stardom begins. Naturally, I was signed to play Charlie Chan's number one son. I mean, that's what Chinese actors do for a living in Hollywood, isn't it? Charlie himself is always played by a round-eyed wearing 6 pounds of makeup. Lee cynically commented on his participation in number one son, saying of the prejudiced way in which Hollywood produces saw Asians. Yeah, it's always chop chop, tongue tongue, and all that sort of stuff. Like that one of Mickey Rooney, you see it on the Jagged Bruce Lee story. But number one son, because of Lee's nationality, never developed into a series. Screenwriter Lorenzo Semple Jr., who penned the screenplays for the remake of King Kong, Never Say Never Again, and the 1966 pilot episode of Batman, said of the proposed program, I had been hacking around writing horrible pilots which didn't sell for producers William Dozier. Then Bill made a deal with ABC to do a Charlie Chan series called Number One Son. I wrote the script in Spain where I was living at the time. The network liked it, except they said there's only one thing wrong. We've decided that we don't want anything with a Chinaman in it. They felt rather guilty, so they told Bill, if you like, you and Lorenzo can do Batman. Bill came to see me in Madrid and was pretty embarrassed. Dozier later came back to Lee with the Kato role in 20th Century Fox. And 20th Century Fox, which owned the series, put the actor on retainer. The reports on Lee's camera test for the studio reads, when Lee punched, the whole process only used up 3 frames. In a second, 24 frames of film will be used. Bruce only used an eighth of a second to give a punch. That's probably how fast he was. After Lee's death, 20th Century Fox released a compilation of Green Hornet episodes as a feature film titled Bruce Lee the Green Hornet, and began it, to the delight of Lee's fans, with his original screen test for the Kato role. The dialogue of that screen test is as follows, and you've seen that interview where he tries his punches and his kicks and stuff, and the old white guy's like, and he says, oh, he looks pretty nervous. Don't worry about it. Won't hit you, all this sort of stuff. He looks pretty worried. And to the eye, you would use the fingers. Does a finger jab and then says to the cowering victim, don't worry, I won't hurt you. To the eyes, straight to the face from the waist. He looks pretty nervous. Okay, The volunteer, these are just natural reactions explaining his flinching throughout the demonstration. Tester, right into the camera, show us again. Yeah. This is all the episodes of Kato and the Green Hornet. And then how Green Hornet and Kato also appeared in two-part Batman, where Burt Ward was bragging there's a black belt, he could take Bruce Lee, take him out, beat the crap out of him, kick his ass, and then Bruce Lee said, okay, take that challenge. He practically peed his pants, according to Adam West. He peed his pants, literally. There you go, Bruce Lee and Marlowe with James Garner. And then it talks about his role he's supposed to play in the silent flute in his TV series Kung Fu, which was basically stolen from him by David Carradine. Even though that Kung Fu program was really good in the 70s. Because they didn't want an Asian actor, right? He looked too Asian for American audiences. King Boxer, this is Wang Yu, right? Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury. I wonder if this guy's related to Lucy Liu. So there seems to be a lot of them in those movies, especially like Kill Bill, etc. But there's earlier Chinese movies where there's a guy called Liu as a monk and all sorts, bad guy. Cheng Li clasps the jade locket his mother gave him when he promised not to fight, with the chain symbolising social restriction. So that's what we're saying in our former video. A comment under a Bruce Lee video on YouTube. About a guy, I think it was called something like Bruce Lee, understanding religion, am I stupid, or something like that. Bruce Lee's Ching shares a quiet moment with Charlotte May, Maria Yi, who does domestic chores for her brother and cousins. She's quite pretty, right? But the other one was, I think, was more cuter. I guess I've forgotten her name. She's on his other movies, in most of his other movies. Ching is introduced to foreign liquor by one of the boss prostitutes, Malaline. Okay, so there's quite a bit of information on that film. The Chinese connection of Fist of Fury. Yeah, this is her here. Her real Chinese name is Miao Shi. That'd be Nora Miao. She's very cute. And this guy here, he's in a lot of these 70s silly martial art movies, but he's always the bad guy, a curator or something like that, an interpreter. He's always a bad guy. Even in later ones after Bruce Lee died, he was still playing that similar role. He's really good at it. Wei Ping Ao, was his brother's in. He's a fat guy with the glasses. In Fist of Fury, the Japanese instructor, right? Yeah, his name's like Paul something. Okay. Plays that character really, really well. Yeah. Meow Ke Shui. It's Nora Meow there. Bob Baker, the Russian. Petrov. Yeah, no way. I think that's that guy who plays the Chinese interpreter for the Japanese. That's one of his brothers. Yeah, this guy here. Yeah, I think he's Paul Wei. And then he's the brother of Lo Wei, the director of The Big Boss. Yeah, that was more interested in his betting than the actual film. He stopped production just to listen to his horse racing. Yeah, and a big guy from Fist of Fury, the Japanese instructor with the glasses, who gets killed with the sword. That's one of his brothers as well. Return of the Dragon with Chuck Norris, Way of the Dragon. Tong Lung. Yes, that's a really good movie. It's got his cousin in it. Jimmy Little Unicorn. Yeah, it might be Jimmy Wang or something like that. Got knocked out by that Wolfman Jack looking character. There she is there, Nora Meow and Tang Lung. And they come across a hitman or a mobster or whatever in their apartment. Although Lee recognised the cinematic value of the flashy nunchaku, he found the actual weapon ineffective. Interesting. At the boss's office, Ho T.I. treated to his fellow Chinese and a character treated in homophobic fashion, as was the actor's Japanese villain in the Chinese Connection. Yeah, that's that Paul Wei guy. Threatens to use a knife on Chen and make her face looked very ugly. He laughs when she mentions Tang Lung, who the thugs believe was slain by the sniper and say is seeking peace with his maker. This line provides little insight into the personal religious philosophy of Lee, who was a fatalist. When his brother Robert asked Lee if he believed in God, the actor replied, "I believe in sleeping." Okay, very funny there. Yeah, she said he didn't really believe in a God as such, but he felt that something inside him, within him, was pushing him to become what he eventually became. Some force, call it God or whatever, was compelling him, pushing him to become what he eventually became. Okay? But he did say, take it as you will. Something, it's a force, if you want to call it God. It's just something inside me that's doing that. You can feel that, right? But he's more into Taoism and considered what we'd say God as the void, etc., etc. Right? This guy here, he's in a lot of these Bruce Lee clone movies later on as well. John T. Bean. The famous Chuck Norris fight scene in the Coliseum. Chuck was a bit of a chubby, pretty hairy. It's just a comic strip type ad appeared in the Sunday editions of metropolitan newspapers when Into the Dragon was released. Probably to get people interested, right? The Dragon enters. My father created the martial arts genre in the Western world. I don't think that's presumptuous to say, I just think it's true. Certainly the films of other people have grossed more money and have had larger budgets, but for my money, no one ever equalled my dad's achievement on film, especially in Into the Dragon, which is my favourite. Brandon Lee, and a personal interview with the author on August 16, 1992. More information which leads up to the Game of Death. John Saxon, who was the father or the policeman or something in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first or second one, and other movies. Yeah, pretty good actor. Had various ranges. Into the Dragon with Bulayoon, Shere Khan, okay. Jim Kelly. Angela Mao, doing her movies. Lady Kung Fu. She played the sister of Bruce Lee in Into the Dragon that Bob Ward was harassing. She played Su Lin, the sister. Jim Kelly suffered food poisoning after arriving in Hong Kong, but was soon back to work. Okay. What's this guy's name? Peter Archer, who they keep saying is a New Zealander. No, he was an Australian. Okay, that's why he had that weird voice. Master, you can call it that. Fighting. That's such an annoying voice, right? Yeah, Peter Archer. He was Australian, not a New Zealander. That's a mistake they made in that movie. Okay, he may have had a couple of karate schools over here, if I remember rightly, with a guy called Carl Sargent, but he was an Australian. Okay. And apparently in the boat scene he actually nearly drowned. I have a funny feeling we've been fattening up to kill. Yeah, they got all this food given to the Roper and Kelly. Yeah, and he's just got this funny feeling we've been fattened up for the kill. Bob Wall. Yeah, this is where he used a double. That's the guy from Kung Fu Hustle, the landlady's husband. Like he does that, then he does that flip over those monks. It was this other guy, I've forgotten his name, but he was in Kung Fu Hustle. Jackie Chan, Shere Khan, 6 sequences to watch closely in Enter the Dragon. Death of the Dragon. My dad only made 4 major films: Fist of Fury, The Chinese Connection, Enter the Dragon, and Return of the Dragon. The craziness that surrounded my whole family after our dad passed away in Hong Kong, including the rumours that he was still alive, is on the same level as Elvis sightings to me. That's really what it is, a kind of mania. I don't understand it. Brandon Lee in a personal interview with the author on August 16, 1992. And all the information related to Bruce Lee's death covered in all the other biographies, etc. The other books. What's this about hashish? The late Albert Goldman, who wrote detailed accounts of the drug-related deaths of Elvis Presley and Lenny Bruce in best-selling biographies Elvis and Ladies and Gentlemen Lenny Bruce, claimed that Lee ate but never smoked hashish to help him relax and died of hashish poisoning. According to Goldman, Steve McQueen, who also sought to escape the pressures of superstardom, they used the drug to relax and suggested his friend and former kung fu teacher do likewise. Well, we read that he was suggesting to others to do that, help you relax, or that sort of stuff, because he sparked up a joint at home and smoked it, and he says, oh, you know, I do it to relax. I can't relax. It's the only thing that relaxes me, and so forth. He's back. Bruce Lee's Game of Death, final game. Game of Death cannot be seriously considered a Bruce Lee film, but because it marks his last screen appearance, the 102 minutes, $3 million production deserves brief analysis. Here is a crock. Cardboard cutouts, you know, all this sort of stuff. Bruce Lee is alive and kicking in Japan. Game of Death cannot seriously be considered a, let's say, true Bruce Lee film. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the basketball player, and Bruce Lee in a publicity shot. Wow, he kicked that high. That's probably from La Savate, where it, from a standing position it swings upward. That's probably what it is, La Savate. Very little of Lee's original premise remains in the finished film. Bruce is back. That's it. Colleen Campright. She's actually quite a big looking lady now. Puffed up. Put on a hell of a lot of weight. Just the facts on Bruce Lee. Here's some facts about Bruce Lee, his films and his legacy. Actual facts, established facts. Jason Scott Lee starred as Bruce Lee in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And Brandon Lee. No true Bruce Lee fan ever expected Brandon Lee to take his father's place. Yeah, everybody expected him to be a Bruce Lee clone, but he wanted to do his own thing, and he did pretty well doing that up to his death. The Crow, a couple of other movies with the big guy from Rocky. Yeah, just some really good movies. Tokyo Showdown, I think it was, with Dolph Lundgren in that. The Crow, yeah, that's a really good movie. Enjoyed that one. Rapid Fire, that's another good one. An interview with Brendan Lee and what was said during that. The men who would be kings, Chuck Norris, and their reflection on Bruce Lee. What he did in his movies, like Missing in Action and all this sort of stuff. Not too bad movies. He's a pretty good action star. Didn't watch all of them, but yeah, pretty good. Jean-Claude Van Damme, yeah, bit of a pretty boy, but he had some good movies. Enjoyed a lot of his movies. Jackie Chan, definitely. Very characteristic, very funny, very entertaining. Haven't watched all of his, but yeah, brilliant. Chapter 13, A Star Is Born in Hollywood. Re-Enter the Dragon. For Bruce Lee fans, the next years may mark a new beginning, not an end. A page one story. Hollywood's cyber dweebs are raising the dead. The November 4 to 10, 1996 issue of Variety noted that computer wizards may soon be reviving old stars. The first one being resurrected Bruce Lee. While watching Bruce Lee, we can live in a fantasy of safety, if only for 2 hours. Yeah, there's a Chinese guy out there, reckon he'd create these Bruce Lee movies using something he created that would look exactly like Bruce Lee. You'd think it was Bruce Lee, and all this stuff. Don't know what happened there. Here's some information on all his films. Okay, it hasn't really gone into the cloning movies. Okay, about the author, Lou Gao. Used to have that poster, but fell off the wall a lot of times, got rips, torn, etc. So he just used those other ones where they can roll up and stuff, you know. There's cloth versions. Other books available, it looks like all vampires and stuff like that. Okay, here's the information about this particular book. The Fist That Shook the World, The Cinema of Bruce Lee by Lou Gao. Lou Gao, a respected film critic and historian, provides an insightful look at the life and film career of the legendary Bruce Lee. There remains only one king of cinematic kung fu, Bruce Lee. He still holds that position more than 2 decades after his passing. The book will pinpoint many elements through Lee's career. the use of prejudice as a theme, sexual elements, critical overviews and scene readings. For clarification, the text is divided into a number of sections with the cumulative effect of presenting a picture of a gifted driven genius. And there's some reviews here, a review here on that book about the author, etc. So we hope that you enjoyed this hopefully not too lengthy video. The Fist That Shook the World, The Cinema of Bruce Lee by Lou Gore. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments below, and then go share this particular video with all your friends, family, neighbours, etc. who are ardent Bruce Lee fans. We're sure they'll enjoy it. Thank you for taking the time to view our latest Bruce Lee video presentation. We are in debt